Apologies, it's been a while since I've made any content. I've actually been really busy with other projects, so I haven't really had time to dedicate any time to kind of this hobby. So this video probably won't be too long. Just kind of touch base with everyone, let everyone know what I've kind of been doing when I have had time. I guess first thing is I've got this blaster here. It's got an MK V2 gearbox in it, 13:1 gears. It has a SHS high torque motor, and it's got the Jeftron active brake V2 MOSFET in there. Very simple MOSFET, easy to install, pretty much just plug and play. I think you just have to solder on the little tabs for the magazine power, and away you go. So it's very simple. I've got another one here. So this one has got the active brake version, and this one just has the MOSFET V2 version. I haven't done that much research, but you're gonna have to do a bit of reading up. But I'm pretty sure the active brake one is for builds with high rate of fire, or if you like to spam the semi, and that's just your kind of like slightly lower spec MOSFET here, which I'll be installing into a blaster with this motor that I just had arrive. So it's the ASG Infinity CNC. It is 18,000 RPM. So I've got a gearbox that I am putting together right now with 13:1 gears. So it'll be taking that MOSFET, this motor, and I believe this is version 2 of this type of motor. So if you are familiar with this brand, you'll know that the version 1 was green. So I think it was the black or silver can with green ends. Now it's just black, and they've added some air vents or ports. I'll briefly touch on these new bushings that are coming out of MK Tactical. Now the ones I have, they are the test ones, the prototype, so these ones aren't hardened steel. So we'll just really use these to kind of test fit them to the box and make sure that they were true to being slim, so slimline, which they are, so they won't foul anywhere on the outside with the selector plate. And also the thickness, we played around with the thickness of the bushes to make sure we had that right, so you don't use as many shims. So you'll know if you have to use low necks or retro arms shims, bushings, sorry, you use a lot of shims. Well, we kind of like work through these ones so that you use less shims, so it actually works out a lot better. Okay, in this build here, what I used is the MKV2 gearbox, and I did give this HSG V2 tablet plate a bit of a crack. I don't mind the design. I just found with the MKV2 gearbox and the fibre metal T-piece, etc., it just wasn't pulling the nozzle back far enough to feed a gel. I mean, it was, but it was, the semi-auto was very inconsistent, and it was a fraction too short, just by the tiniest bit. So sometimes the gels wouldn't feed. Other times they would feed fine, sometimes they wouldn't feed, sometimes they would. Anyway, I've got a little trick that I do if I come into little situations like that, where the tablet plate is just not being pulled back far enough and I just need a fraction more. I'll quickly show you my little cheap trick, and it's very quick and easy, and it works perfectly. So I'll show you a demo of this shooting now, and you'll see that it feeds perfectly. And I'll show you how I achieve that with this tapper plate, and you can actually use this for future builds. If you ever come across something similar, give this a crack, and it may just help you out. Alright, so if you want to do this little trick that I'm going to show you, what you need is, you're going to need a couple of bearings. I do prefer this style of bearing to this one, so let's just take that one out of the equation. And what you're looking for is, or what you're going to be pulling out is this part. It's the centerpiece of the bearing. So all I do is just pop that in a vise and just gently squeeze. It'll crack the outside. You peel it all away and you'll be left with this. And as you can see on these two different types of bearings, the centerpiece is a different thickness, so you can manipulate this trick by paying attention to the thickness of the inside of the bearing. They'll give you different results. So this trick, this little hack I like to do, just bear in mind that different types of bearings, that centerpiece that we've taken out, it varies in thickness. So if you have a few different types of bearings, you can pull a few apart and just have a look and try and work out which one is going to work best for you. So I'm just using this as an example, and it is as simple as slipping this over the little lobe, if you want to call it a lobe, the little cam on the sector gear. So for whatever reason, let's just pretend that as the sector gear pulls the taper blade back, just up this end here in the T-piece and the nozzle area, we just don't have enough clearance to feed a gel through, or you have some inconsistent feeding. Maybe the gels, they vary slightly in size as they do, so some are going to feed quite well, some are not going to feed, maybe get stuck, get some inconsistent feeding. This may help. So what we can do is we just take this and we just put it over the cam or the lobe on the sector gear, like so. You can also utilize this in DSG builds as well, because it is like a miniature delayer, if you would want to call it that. It is kind of, it's not exactly, but yes, it's like it can help. I mean, it's up to you guys to kind of experiment with this yourselves to find out where it works and where it's not going to work. But it's just a helpful little hack or tip that you may be able to use. I always super glue them on once I have everything looking like it's going to work. I'll super glue that on. Just bear in mind that once you super glue it on, it's extremely hard to get back off. So before you do the super gluing, etc., please make sure it's what you need and it looks like it's going to work before you put the super glue on. Otherwise you're going to be cursing as you try and get that off, because it's extremely hard to get off, trust me. Okay, so we got the those new bushes that I was testing out. So these ones I have in the gearbox shell right now. They're not heat treated. These were some test ones that MK Tactical put out. So just having a nosy. So they are slimline. So you'll see that they don't protrude from the outer of the gearbox. So they won't catch on your selector plate at all. And on the inside, the depth of the bush or the thickness has been adjusted. It's not the same as retro arms or low necks. They're a little bit thicker, and you use less shims. So I've tested these out for myself, and I think each gear I used about 0.5 less shims compared to when I had the low necks or retro arms low profile bushings in there. So these I think are a lot better, and I think these are, I think the ones he's selling on the website now are hardened steel. These ones haven't been hardened, but I believe if he hasn't changed anything, they are hardened, but they're not as hard as the retro arms bushings. So they shouldn't crack. So I've had issues with the retro arms where if you press them in wrong, the outside part of the bushing can crack. Shouldn't have a problem with these ones, being that they're not as hard. They're hard, but not as hard, so a good medium. And I believe that they've been chamfered. I think that's the right word. So you can actually press them in a lot easier. So yeah, these are really good. Even though these aren't heat treated, or I'm just going to leave them in here and see how they go. Alright, it's all together. Give it a couple of dry fire tests, and then I'll put it back in the blaster. I do need to get a couple of more things to finish it off. Handguard. I need to get a handguard and that sorted out. So yeah, I'll just do that real quick. Let me find a battery. Okay, so we've got the two Jeftron MOSFETs. That one has active brake. This one doesn't. Has no active brake. Very similar. The price range is very similar too. Maybe it's like $5 or $10 Australian difference between the two. If I was to purchase more, I would definitely go with the one with the active brake, because I do like active brake. But for your builds, you guys need to read up on the specs and decide which is going to be best for your specific build. But overall, for like little plug and play MOSFETs, they are perfect. Very simple to install. Yeah, and you only have to solder up the mag power, and that's it. Yeah, really nice. Very happy with those actually. Alright, for whatever reason, the MOSFET has just failed. So I was just about to do a test fire. It had everything set up. It was doing around 20 rounds a second at 330 to 340 FPS. And just as I was about to start recording, I loaded up, did a test fire. When I removed my finger from the trigger, I just kept cycling. It wouldn't stop, so I had to disconnect the battery. So obviously something's happened to the MOSFET. It was all within limitations. M100 spring. You guys know I was using the 18,000 RPM motor. There's nothing unusual about this build. There's no exposed wiring on any of the loom. So unfortunately, I don't know what's happened. I guess it just may be one of those things. Maybe I just got a dud. Because the other Jeftron products that I have run flawlessly. This is the first one I've had that's had any issues. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to have to take this back to where I purchased it and see what kind of warranty there is. But if I do this, the motor shouldn't rotate at all or cycle. But as you can see, it does. So there's clearly something wrong. I'm going to say that is fried. Anyway, I'll keep everyone updated as to what happens in the next video.